Alright, so welcome back to another Python tutorial, Python project maybe. So in this video what we're going to do is we're going to build a Python Hangman project. So basically if you haven't played Hangman before, it looks like this. So actually let me go ahead go to the code. This time since the code is pretty short, it just takes like 63 lines of code. 60 lines of code-ish, so it's not going to be too long, and then going to use Replit. And then this project live on Github as well. It's a little bit weird, but we'll use Replit to code. Github is just my testing environment. But I will leave these two links down in the description down below as well. But let's just take a look what's that look like. Okay, let me close this directory. Close all these files. Alright, so let's go take a look. If we go ahead and run this Hangman, what's gonna see is you're gonna see how many letters are there. So then you can say inner letter. So how many letters total? Enter a letter here, for example B. You can see missed letter, you didn't get B correct, you have 2 chances left. H, you can say it's correct and then you can see all the words going to load from this dictionary.txt since the dictionary.txt only have hello. Then I can complete this program. And then if I accidentally type B again, it's gonna say you are used B, and then it's gonna prompt you to type letter again. You type like invalid responses, and then it's gonna prompt you error. And then if you missed it again, one chance left. Am, for example, you didn't guess a word. The word is hello, but if you guessed it, you can see guess the word. All right, that's basically how the game goes. Word guessing game. Let's take a look how to implement that in this. So we're gonna use what we call Replit. Replit is an online coding environment. Really simple. I recommend for small projects. So for big project though, recommend for use a fully fledged code editor, especially for local editor because that's much faster. But once you're on here, on the home screen, if you don't have an account, maybe see start coding or sign up. Recommend you to click on sign up. Choose your 3 favorite languages. Make sure to include Python. Where you don't have to, it's just like a little shortcut. And then once you create an account, you can click on this Python. Well, if you don't want to create an account, it's also okay. You can just click on. You can also just click on that. The start coding, which is not going to save your code per se, but you can still share the link. But once you close the browser, you cannot get the access to your code, like cannot edit the code anymore. So still, I recommend you to create a account so you can save your code. I'm just gonna rename this repo to Hangman. All right, and the reason it's named Hangman is because every time you make a miss, it's gonna actually draw body parts out, and once it's finished drawing out the body part, basically game over. But we're not gonna do that complicated just yet. Maybe we can do that using Pygame or something. Okay, so let's go and get started. The first thing what we're going to do is you can see there's a file automatically created called main.py. So in here what I can say, I can add a file, and then here I can just say dictionary.txt. Dictionary.txt. Basically, this is where you can store all your words, all the available words. And in here, then I can just say hello world programming coding Python Hangman, for example. All right. So these are some random words. You can see they are separated by a line break. All right. So now what I want to do is go ahead and import a module. This is the only external module it's going to use called random. This is used to decide which word should we use. And in here, I'm going to create a function called load dictionary. Going to take in a file. So file is basically where the file address, not like memory address, but just like literal like where this file is located. And then here, I'm just going to say this with open. So you're going to create a context manager, dictionary.txt sf. And since we're using reading, and read is by default, so we don't need to specify what type it is. So basically, we're open this dictionary.txt, and then in here, you can say words equals to f.read, basically read everything, and then dot split by a line break. So this is going to give us a list, and this list is going to be all the words, but separated other word, separated by the line break. And then in here, then what we can do is return word. Return this array. Okay. So then now what I can do is this. So this is more like an object-oriented programming dynamic. So in here, we're gonna go ahead and create a new class. So this is a great object-oriented program project that we can do. So in here, I'm just gonna create a class, and the class is just gonna name as Hangman game. Hangman game. And in here, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to use some Thunder method or magic method that's automatically supported in every Python 3 classes. The first what we're going to do is what we call an init. And then notice that we have a few things here. We have an init. Init's just a function that's going to run automatically when you create a new class. And then notice that they're always, for whatever method that you define within a class, they're always going to be arguments called self. Self just literally represents to the object itself. So you can have access to all different variables. And then we're going to take a look how can we use self. So then here we're going to say this. We're going to say dictionary. Dictionary. So this basically is a list of words as we expected. And then in here we can say chance. And unless the user provides one, the chance automatically going to be 7. Okay? So the first thing is that I need to go ahead and decide what word do we need to put, which is the word that the user try to guess. And here then I can say this. Self.word equals to random.choice dictionary. So recall the dictionary is an array, and we can use self.choice to randomly choose one element from this array or this list. Okay? And then here I can say this. Self.letterGuessed is gonna be an empty array. This basically gonna track what letter did it guess. Okay, what letter did they guess? And then here I can say letter incorrect. Letter incorrect basically means all these the letter that they missed. Okay, all these letters that they missed. And then in here, what I could also gonna do is create a self.string. And then I'm gonna use a fancy list comprehension. So it's going to basically be this. It's gonna be underscore. As you can see on the demo that I showed, it's a bunch of underscore. And in here you're gonna say this. Underscore for I in range of the length of self.word. And the reason we use self.word is you can imagine self just as a dictionary that store all different functions. For example, the init function and all these different variables that can associate with it. Okay, and then we can assign a variable, just say self.word equals to something, and we can use it by just typing self.word. Just make sure you have this self in all arguments. You can use it. And then notice this list comprehension. I would like to explain this briefly. So what's gonna happen is list comprehension usually is something with a loop, and it's specifically designed for a list, obviously. So first, what you're going to type, usually, in this case, I'm just typing an underscore. Basically, this means, okay, so what do you want to happen? What do you want to put into this list? And then, okay, so I'm just going to say underscore. And underscore is going to be everything. Okay, literal everything. So, but I need to know how many underscore do I put. That's how I run this for loop. This for loop going to go at underscore every time for I in range of the length of the word. So basically, how long the word is. If the word has 6 letters, it's gonna have 6 underscore. Or we can also do something different. For example, we could say something like this. We could just say I for I in range of for I in A B C D E, and then you can see this is gonna give you A B C D E out. But if we try to do instead of using underscore, it's just gonna put underscore into the list instead. And then you can see we got 5 underscore. If the length of the word is ABCD. Okay. And then in here, then I'm also going to say self.chance equals to chance. Alright, so this is our init function. So init function, again, is usually just to set up this class. Alright. Second thing, we're gonna say check word. This check word is going to be really simple. It's just going to check whether we got the correct word or not. So basically, the string is this. We're gonna later modify the string so that we can modify the string in a way that if every time if the user get one word correctly, we're gonna replace the correct positions underscore to that actual letter. And here's what we're going to do. We're gonna say if this dot join self dot string. So basically, what's happening here is now we're joining all these together. So it's not a list; it's a string now. And if we say and then we can say this. So this empty quotation mark just means this. You can see now it's gonna join to 5 underscore. You can see this is like a way to like represent this just to join the word without any spaces. So you can see join pretty nicely without any space, just like how we're going to type a regular English word as well. And then in here you're gonna say self dot string. So basically we're gonna join the string by no space, and then I'm gonna say if this indeed is equals to self dot word, means if this string that we're working with is self dot word, it's a word that's what we're trying to guess. Now what we're going to do is this. We're going to say return true. Just going to say return true. Otherwise, return false. That means basically check the word whether whether the word that the user gets is indeed the word that we're trying to guess. Because we don't want to prompt them forever. For example, even if they guess the word, we're going to say, okay, enter a letter. Because it's just like doesn't make sense. So we need to. This is a way to know when the game will stop. So the game will stop for multiple reasons. Actually, only couple reasons. First, it's either use all the chances, or second, guess a word. All right. Now what we're going to do is this. We're going to create a function, another method, function, whatever you want to call it, called print string. And the point for this function is going to basically print out the string nicely in a way that a user can read it better. And in here, we're going to say this. Return space join self string. Basically, now what's going to happen is, since you can see, it's going to be a mess. If you look pretty far away, you can see it's really just one huge underscore. Now we want to have some spaces string. You can see there's some distance, so it's going to be more obvious how many letters are there and what letter have the user guessed correctly, of course. All right. So these are these two helper functions. It's gonna create. Maybe we can create more, but I think this is good enough. So object-oriented programming language, always object-oriented programming dynamic, always going to separate. You can imagine these are some helper functions we can use or some method, so we don't have to re-implement this on our quote-unquote main function, main method, which in this case is just going to be play. And play, here's what's gonna happen. It's going to be a while loop, while true loop. Don't worry, it's not an infinite loop. We'll check for condition when to break out of this loop. So first thing what I'm going to do is going to say print self dot print string. And this what's going to happen is it's just going to print out. Okay, let's just print out this self dot string in a formatted way by whatever this print string is. Okay, so we're just going to use our print string function as we define and then print it out. Then in here we can use another while true loop, and we can say this: L equals to input. Shoot, I forgot one more function that we need to define. We need to define one more helper function. This is the most important one. This is going to basically handle what's happened after a user type a letter. So it's also going to take in another argument called letter. Okay, and then what's going to happen is this: if letter not in self.letter guessed. Actually, we don't have to do this. We can just say this. We're just going to say this: self.letter guessed dot append letter. So basically, we'll just append this letter to our letter guessed. I'm only going to use this letter method only when we confirm that we don't already have this letter in our list. All right. And then is this if letter in self.word. So we're checking, okay, if this letter is correct, is within this word, then we can say this. For I in range of the links, self.word. Then here I can say if self.word bracket I. So here's what we're going to do. We're trying to loop through. We're trying to loop through for the length of the self.word. And we're checking this. And this is going to be the index number. And here just checking the word bracket I is equals to letter. So checking is there anything that is true, basically. And then in here I can say this. Self.string bracket I. So now we start replacing. So for example, if the user gets this letter correctly, then we're just going to replace whatever this is, whatever this underscore is, whatever this existing value is, which is underscore, to the actual letter. And this loop is going to guarantee us if there's multiple same letter, for example, hello, and the user gets L, it's just going to change all the underscore, which represent the L value, to L. Okay, so because if you type L, then we can just assume, okay, the user won't guess, so we'll just display two L's. We don't want to just display one L, we want to display two L's. And then here we can do a return value. Return true. Return true. So basically means, okay, the user guessed it correctly. Alright. Otherwise, if the letter is not in the word, which means the user guessed it incorrectly, what we're going to do is that self.letter incorrect append this letter. So basically means this letter is incorrect and want to append this letter. And in this case, I'm going to say self.chance minus equals to 1. Basically, I just want to subtract a chance because the user guessed incorrectly. For whatever chance it is, they waste their chance. They lose a chance. And for the letter to guess correctly, they don't lose the chance. And then here I'm going to return false, which represented no, they didn't guess this letter correctly. Alright, so now let's go back to our play function. First is, you can see I used two while loop. And this while loop is just going to try to see if we input a correct value for the letter. So in here, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say enter a letter here. Okay, enter a letter here. And I'm going to do some check. If the length of this letter is not 1, that means the user typed multiple letter. For example, ABC, when they're supposed to only input a single number, which is either A, either B, or either C. And here I'm just going to say print, please re-enter a single letter. Otherwise, we're going to check this. Otherwise, we're going to check this. Else, I'll in self.letter guessed. So if the user indeed only type A, we want to check, okay, does the user already guess this word or not? If they did, then we'll just want to say print. You already, so notice the F string, basically we can use a Python expression within it. You already used, and then we can use curly braces to represent, okay, we're typing Python expression here. I'm just going to remove this period so I don't have to see that line. Alright, you already used this letter. Alright. Otherwise, if it's none of them, that's mean we can assume, okay, the user typed this letter correctly and it's valid, so now we can break out of this infinite loop. And then what we can do is we can call in this letter function as we did and input the letter L. Input the letter L. Okay? That's going to do some cool letter function here. Okay, with whatever the user input it is. And then in here I'm going to say this. If self.checkWord, turns out I don't really need return value because I just realized I didn't really do anything with the return value. But then first, now what I'm going to do is I'm checking the word. And if this is true, so self.word is going to return true or false. If this is true, this condition is going to run. And I can say you guessed the word. You guess the word. And they're going to break out of this infinite loop. Alright. Otherwise, I'm just going to say print out. First of all, I want to print out missed letters, which is this, which is dot join. So it's similar. We're just going to separate by space all missed letters. So self.letter incorrect. These are the letters that the user missed. So want to know what letter did they use. If you want to make their life easier, we can sort this list so it's in alphabetical order. Because by default, it's not in alphabetical order. Alright, and now here's what are we going to check again. We're going to check, did the user use all the chances or not? So if the chance is indeed equals to 0, then we just want to say, okay, print out, you didn't guess the word. The word is self.word. And then we're just gonna break out this loop since the game is over. But then otherwise, if the game is continuing, then I'm just gonna say, okay, let me just remind the user how many chances do they have left. So you have self.chance left. Alright. So let's go over how it's gonna happen. So we create a class. So first of all, we load this content from this dictionary.txt into an array or into a list so we can use it. And then create a class called Hangman. We initialize with a few 5 variables: word, letter guess, letter incorrect, string, and chance with each different purpose. And we created 4 methods, 3 are which are helper method to our main method. So check word, print string, letter. Letter is obviously the most interesting one within these functions. Basically, this just do all these cool stuff. So replace with everything in the string and stuff like that. And minus with the chance, dealing with chance as well. And the place the longest method is because it's gonna run all these code. It's gonna run when we actually try to play the game. It's just gonna associate all these helper functions together with some of its own code and some validation. Technically, you can try to put this into another helper function to validate your inputs, but I'm just gonna put it here. Okay. Alright, so now what I can do is I can start to create a new quote-unquote instance, not quote-unquote, but create a new instance of this class so I can actually play the game. So to create an instance is really easy. Here I can just say Hangman game. I'm actually going to create a new Hangman game first. So in here I can say H Hangman game. And then first you can say you need to provide a dictionary. So dictionary is just going to be this. Since I have a function, just load the dictionary. I'm just going to say load dictionary. And first I want to load dictionary.txt. And remember, it's going to give us a list, okay? So that's going to be the dictionary we're going to use. Not going to specify chances. 7 is all good. And then we can go and say add h.play. Let's go and play this game. Go run it again. You can see, whoa, we got lots of letter. Of course, I know which word it is. It's programming. But I'm just going to purposefully make some mistake and say missed letter works. Okay, programming. D, missed, O, programming, N, G, I, program, and I guess a word. Alright, so, well, yeah, I guess we get this to work. This is really a simple project and a really interesting project to build. Takes not long, but still, it's a great way if you haven't, it's great practice if you don't understand how object-oriented programming works. Well, I hope you understand better now. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I will leave this link into the description down below as well. Well, so stay safe during the pandemic, and as always, I will see you in our next video. All right, see you later.